Hello, everyone, and welcome to our February parent meetup. And today we're going to continue our discussion. We had a great Q&A with Pat Longo last week, where she talked about her book, The Gifts Beneath Your Anxiety. And she is about simple tools to help you to manage your spiritual gifts, because there's a definite link between having these heightened abilities, these sensitivities, and anxiety. And so today, this month, we were diving a little deeper, and we're going to continue our conversation from what we talked about with Pat Longo last week. And she gave us a wonderful, through her personal experiences, talked about a lot of issues of what our abilities can be linked to, and it can be stress, it can be anxiety, it can be depression. She talked about how some kids get it so bad to the point that suicide has been an issue, a factor in all of this, because of being so sensitive to what's going on around them. And it was beautiful. She took us through a technique that she, in her book, calls surround, ground, and shield. And so she walked us through that whole exercise in her book last week. So if you have a chance, go back and listen to the Q&A with her. And she actually walked the participants that we had through that exercise. And that's a very key exercise. Many people have used it, and many people have said that it has helped them because it shuts down the intuitive overload that you get coming through your solar plexus and all the information that you have coming at you. And it's visualizing yourself in a bubble of white light, envisioning cords coming out of both the bottom of your feet and your tailbone and going down into the center of the earth and anchoring you there so you feel more grounded and balanced in yourself. And then shield is imagining that you have a vest that starts up here at your shoulders of your neck and goes down to your waistline, covers the front and back of your body. And you are then shutting down your solar plexus, where you can get the overload of intuitive information coming into you. So that was just her simple technique in a nutshell. You can hear her do it in her exercise, and her book is really good. It is one that I've referred to many people about anxiety, and some of the tools that she offers in there are really helpful. But today we want to take it a step further. One of the things we talked about last week, and it's something that John and I do with Ethan all the time, is she was talking about, and we believe in the fact that thoughts become things. And the power of your thoughts really creates what is happening in your life. And we tell our son, what you think about, you bring about. That's something we tell him all the time, is to watch your thoughts, watch what you think, watch what you say, and watch what you do. And one of the things that we do as parents is we are protective of what we let him take in, even from television, from the internet. As parents, that's something we do have to be vigilant about, because, as it's been said, that once you give a child a phone or the television, it's energy. It's all energy. And you're stepping into and taking in whatever you're looking at, whatever you're experiencing. And when you have heightened sensitivities, you take it in on a whole deeper level. Isn't that right, John? Haven't you noticed that with Ethan?
Absolutely, Ellen. One of the things I really would want to bring about too is just, I guess, with the social media and what's going on with that of late. These young kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, and teenagers, they have really most have unlimited access to the internet, and some even to social media. And, their young minds are still forming. They're trying to find their way in the world. And this unlimited access that they have, sometimes it's just too much. You got a lot of adult topics that are being handled, and they're trying to find their way in the world, and they just trying to understand it all, but sometimes it's a little bit too much for them. And I feel that that, again, it's an energy, right? So that energy that they're taking in on their phones plays into their energy, and it's sometimes, like I said, it's a little bit overkill, a little bit too much information for them, and such topics. And then you get into the TikToks and all the other types of things that have a lot of inappropriate things for kids. And a lot of the things that are going on in society and in schools and things that can be kind of brought back to, that, getting that access to that at such a young age. It starts to really, it really starts to change a child. And actually, our society is just changing, from that. And I think we need to as parents, be really diligent about what we give to kids, what we give kids access to. I use the analogy all the time. These kids have these cell phones, but you wouldn't let your kid walk around downtown by themselves. And, and most people would say, of course I wouldn't do that, but when you let your kids have a phone on, without, any kind of supervision, it's very similar. In fact, there's worse things that they can run into online and on the phone than they can run into downtown by themselves. So really, really think about that and take that to heart, that there's a lot of things out there that kids have access to, and it really starts to change their energy and really can help to elevate a child or bring a child down. And unfortunately, a lot of things on the internet don't necessarily help to bring about the best for our kids.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have to think about too, because even, as you help your child and monitor what they're doing, they still have friends, and not every friend has, have that same kind of control or parameters that you may have for your child. And the main thing that we can do for our children is to really help give them the tools to self-manage themselves, to self-regulate themselves, but also as a parent is to just stay plugged in and keep that dialogue open with your child so you can know how they're feeling and you can know what they're thinking. I mean, of course, they hit those teen years where they're not going to want to be talking, and the parents, they may distance a little bit, and because their friends become more important, and that's the way it's supposed to be. They're going in their stages of development growing up. But as we give them the tools and we talk to them about it, they'll start, sometimes you think they're not listening, but they'll take it in. They'll start taking it in, and they'll be able to know that what they're being taught and how they're being guided to help themselves is going to be beneficial. And especially the key is if you do it as a family, if you make this part of your family process and not just this is something the child needs to learn, but this is something that we need to learn and we need to do together, it becomes something that the child will actually take in and use. And that's so key, because like what John mentioned, it's the messaging. Even just the messaging, you can monitor what your child is watching, but the messaging of you have to look a certain way, or you have to act a certain way, or dress a certain way, or this or that. And children take that in and measure their self-value or self-worth and get their self-esteem, even outside of what parents may be showing them or teaching them. So it's just really being, parenting is just different now with all the social media and everything. And so kids experience stressors in different ways. With that, and just being bombarded intuitively, and empathically, whether it's at home or even at school. We'll talk a little bit about, both of those things, because at home, kids can, when they have these abilities, can pick up on unspoken feelings and emotions in the household, or just know certain things, even that happen with the parents or with siblings, within the family. There's just an awareness and a knowing, and that can bring potential stressors to a child. And even at school, when you talk about going to school, that's a big key place for children experiencing stressors, because I know for us, and John will help chime in here, is one of the things that we always have to pay attention to and be aware of. We know for Ethan, because at a young age, his abilities opens up so much. He started having issues with intuitive overload and feeling anxiety. And we became aware very quickly, Ethan, stress, I want to stop, stress brings out and enhances anxiety. Stress is usually a trigger for anxiety, and extreme stress triggers anxiety, and extreme anxiety can trigger depression. So you can get all of this from being so sensitive, and kids are open, they're wide open. And we have to teach them how to set their boundaries and how to work with monitoring and shutting down their energy field, protecting themselves, and then also how to continue to self-regulate with different helpful techniques that we'll talk about in just a little bit. But one of the things for school that we wanted to touch on was, we know for Ethan, class size has always been an issue for us. We became aware of how sensitive he was and how important it was for his class size. Wouldn't you say that, John? We've had to change his schools a couple times because we had to get the right fit for him. And as a parent, and parents, you can't be afraid to do that. I know it's not ideal to shift your child from the school to school, and we haven't shifted him like around a lot of schools, but he has changed a couple of times. But it was important for his well-being and his self-esteem and his overall being able to deal with all the energies around him. Wouldn't you say, John?
Yes, with with that, I mean, there were some other issues surrounding that too, but class size was definitely a big part of it. With larger class size, you have a lot of the larger the class size, the more energy there is within a room. If you got like 25 kids in a class, that's a lot. You usually have one teacher, maybe an aide, and you can only control but so much. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of things going on, and just even with adults. I mean, if you were an adult with 25 other adults in the room, if you had an adult class with just 15 or 12 adults in the room, even yourself, you have to say, yeah, it would be a lot calmer, a lot less energy, so to speak. So I think, we don't really look at that. We say, oh, kids, oh, they can just deal with it. But, as an adult, when you put yourself in those similar situations, what would you want for yourself? What would you prefer for yourself? And that it goes to learning in an environment like that and interacting. Some kids may, or even adults may be happy with a large class size, but by and large, I think it's the larger the class size, the larger the energy, and then you have it becomes more scattered and becomes less of a controlled environment.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the class size, but also for us, part of the factor was how how he was learning. Was his learning style being taken into consideration? How were they working with him? How were they getting the best out of him? And that's important because in these intuitive children are intuitive thinkers and intuitive learners, and so they process information differently. And if you're with a school and teachers do the best they can, but with the class sizes, and kids who are intuitive or highly sensitive, they have to be sometimes, they learn differently and they have to be managed a little differently. So you have to take all that in consideration. And if you're in an environment where they're understanding that and working with that well, then that's great. And if you're not, we offer to the parents that don't be afraid to make a change, because the more you set your child up for success and being grounded in themselves and loving and knowing that they're okay and there's nothing wrong with them, they will be successful in life versus staying in an environment thinking you have to go through a system this way and your child not feeling good about themselves because they feel so different or misunderstood, or they're zoning out in class or whatever it may be. So that's something that we're just going to put. Those cause stressors for children. That causes stress. So you can have stress at home if they've got it there, and if they're going to school and not feeling supported and understood as well as they should be at school, they've got stress there. And when you have stress at home, stress there, and not feeling like you have a way to work with it or understanding of it, then that's when you start tipping over into the anxiety and the depression and some of the other things. So some of the signs that I wanted to talk about really quickly about stress for kids is like, just pay attention to your child. If you happen to notice that they are having like an explosion of emotion that's seemingly random, like they become very emotional, it can be a sign that they're experiencing some level of stress. Unexplainable emotions, like they're acting different than what they normally do, or they may sleep a lot more than what they might normally do, or psychosomizing. So, experiencing pains or symptoms that it's not explained. They keep being told that there's nothing wrong with them. But they may be taking in the emotions and feelings of others, and it may be making them feel pains and things that they're not having. And that can be a form of stress, which then can tip into anxiety. Cloudy decision making, that can happen. That can be a sign of stress. Of course, we talked about depression, and you have exhaustion. They may be just seem spacey sometimes, or might easily be distracted. Those can be signs of stress. Not all of that is always a sign of stress. But when you start seeing it excessively, those are things to check in with your child and find out, what's going on with them and how they're feeling, and start those types of conversations with them. So one of the main things that we can do to help our children is to help them to learn how to listen to their bodies and help them to give them the tools to work with how they can manage themselves. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yes, definitely. Given those, you know, when you're in school and you're having a lot of different interactions with other kids, kids kind of go on autopilot in a way, but I think it's important for parents to really kind of sit with them and kind of help them learn like good communication tools of like really like tapping into their feelings or how they're feeling about things. Because sometimes kids are just kind of going through the motions and all, and sometimes it's important for them to kind of maybe get debrief with a parent and kind of sit and say, well, how are you really feeling about class? How does it feel when you're in the class? How are you feeling about, the number of kids in the class? How do you feel about the learning? And just really help them kind of maybe just get quiet and kind of tap into their feelings of what they're really feeling versus being on autopilot. Even adults need to do that at times too, not be on autopilot, but to have time to check in. And, you'll be surprised what you'll come up with. Excuse me. Still at the office here.
Okay.
But you'd be surprised what you come up with and yourself and with your kids, that kind of communication, just kind of changing the paradigm of just like, oh, everything's fine. Or how was your day? Regular conversations. But like, how are you really feeling about that situation the other day? Someone was, you felt a certain way about a certain interaction with you and another child. How are you really feeling about that? Or how are you handling that? So kind of checking in with kids, it's important to do that.
And I will say too, that's wonderful what you just said, John. I'll offer this because we've got a wide age ranges. And one thing that's helpful, two things, for your younger children, a great thing is drawing. Drawing and art can be like therapy, and it's also creative. Our intuitive abilities are based in the creative mind, the right brain. Letting kids draw their emotions or feelings if they don't always want to talk. If you have a child that doesn't like to talk much, giving them a journal at any age, being able to draw or to even just to write their emotions, write their feelings down, just self-express. That's a great way to get it out of them and onto paper. Even if they need to have something with a lock and key, that's just their own private journal. But having that kind of time and encouraging that, even maybe family time of journaling time or drawing time, or just making as much family connection and making like a family effort is so helpful. And bonding, because it becomes a bonding and it becomes a connection, and it puts, like they call it, deposits in the emotional bank account for a child when they feel that you're tapped into them and concerned. And even if they don't want to talk or express themselves, just sometimes being present, just being there, just them knowing that they have that access, even if they don't feel like talking at this time. Because depending on what age your child is, they can get into the moody tweens or teens and may not want to talk, but they still know. When you make that effort to let them know that you're there, and if they need them, and give them the tools for them to help start self-regulating and managing themselves. So, and like I said, and just talking, all of that's just really key. But for kids, drawing and art is a great way to get them to express. And as they're getting older, they can still do that because it's a wonderful form of expression, but journaling is a great coping skill, and talking. So, and actually, I just want to throw this one little thing out, because one of the things I like talking to Ethan about, and Ethan is an empath. We're all empathic. Most of the people are sensitive, empathy to different degrees, intuitiveness to different degrees. But I read in one of the books, I think it was the Highly Intuitive Child, I introduced this to Ethan when he was younger, about being a duck or a sponge. And that was a conversation for a younger child. It's like, we have duck people and we have sponge people. And duck people are the ones that can be around others and things can be said to them. And it's like water, rolls off their back. It's not a big deal. But our sponges are the ones that absorb everything and they take it in more deeply. And it's not that one is better than the other, right or wrong. It's not that. It's just how we process and how we move through things. And the sponge people will take things in and hold on to it. And so we would joke when he's going to school, and I would say, Ethan, it's a let's protect our energy. We're going to manage our energy. And we would do the shield. We learned the surround ground shield up your energy, and just know that we want to bubble any energy that's not yours. We're going to leave it outside the bubble, and you keep your energy that's yours inside of the bubble. And we talk about let's be more like a duck than a sponge today. So just to kind of get them in the right mindset for going to school, that we don't have to take on all the emotions and all the energy that's around us. So we need to work with that. So that was just a fun little term that we used, and I thought was a great analogy to help him understand. It's like, are you letting things, you taking it in really deeply, or are we letting it roll off our back? We need to be more of a duck than a sponge today? That kind of a thing. And so if that might help someone with those terminologies, kind of the words that we put on things that maybe help kids to understand it, better or differently, or help it resonate with them a bit more. So that's, so there's definitely some techniques that we want to go through that can help. We created this website, and well, before I jump into that, I want to see, John, did you have anything else you want to add? Any other examples or stories or anything we want to share about stress and children?
Well, just one of the great ways to let stress out is to like physical exercise. So some kids may be into football or track or basketball or something like that, but that kind of physical and emotional type of outlet is important. It gives a chance to really, especially the physical, lets the stress out of their bodies. And a lot of times stress gets you really kind of pent up, at least with physical activity. You can kind of exert and kind of let it out. And, you can kind of work the stress off by doing some kind of physical activity, and also some social, interaction in there too. It's kind of like that kind of a double whammy that those two go together to help
So
to.
no, keep going. I was going to say, you're doing great. You're jumping a little bit ahead. We're going to go into the self-management things, but go ahead, finish your thoughts.
No, that's all. I just wanted to say that as far as alleviating stress, that's all.
Yeah, no, that's great, because then we'll just jump in and we'll go right into some of those things. So what I wanted to do, because we've put in a lot of effort and time and hours in pulling information together for parents and families and educators and caregivers and people who are out there. So we wanted to tap into the website, because I don't know that people fully understand all the information that is available in that resource. So if you are a parent, an educator, a caregiver, a mental health professional, or anyone else who's supporting a highly intuitive child, take a look at the website, highlyyintuitivekids.com. What we tried to do was, there's a lot of information out there that was just kind of scattered all over the place. You have to kind of dig and research for it. And we went and started digging and researching after we went through what we went through with Ethan, and not understanding how to help him. And what we've done and we tried to do, and it's still growing and evolving because there's still more information, is we put together books and resources and videos and helpful online resources on the website, so that people have access to this. And you can go out there and take a look. So one of the sections I'm going to pull up, I'm going to screen share here for you. Just a second, and we'll continue to talk as we do this. This is the Highly Intuitive Kids website. Okay, so where I am right now, we're going to go into, so you have the home. Let's just click over here to home. Is our screen here. This is just, and it shows down here, you have kids, parents, educators, and others. And you can click on these buttons and get to that information, or you can also get to it across the top as well. But I'm going to come over here to resources. If you go over to resources and you come down to helpful techniques, when you go here, what you're going to see, these are helpful techniques for parents and kids, for families, that we've set up this section. And I love this quote because I feel this is so key, not just for children, it's for anybody, that the key to success is self-management. And it's absolutely true, because the more tools you have to help you to manage yourself, regulate your emotions, to help you calm your nervous system, to help you bring you back to a place of center and grounding, is going to help you bring that clarity and that focus for how you need to move forward with handling things. And there are some definite tools and techniques out here that can help all children and all adults, but especially our intuitive children and intuitive adults who have these extra sensitivities that need to take a little more extra care in managing yourself. And I will say, and I go back to, we're just giving some advice and guidance parent to parent, but if you ever are having a situation with what you're doing is not helping your child, when you try and take care of try some base techniques and try and meet their base needs, if they are still struggling, please, please, please call and contact your medical provider or mental health professional, because anxiety and depression can get so bad to the point that a child could consider committing suicide and taking their life. And it's usually not because they want to die. It is because they want to get out of pain. It's the pain they want to get away from. And with a child's mind, they can't think of a better way to get out of the pain than to take their own life, because they're not seeing that there's another way. And what we want to do with our tools and the resources that we give to children is to help them to manage their emotions and bring themselves to a point that they can think clearly enough to always know that they can manage themselves and reach out for help if they need to reach out for help. And so we want to give them those kinds of tools. So this page right here, I'm going to go down. We have put in here different techniques and tools that parents, caregivers, educators, and folks can use. So you don't have to dig for it. So we start off with meditation is one of the best tools for calming the mind and centering yourself and calming your nervous system down and bringing yourself present. And when you do that, you can get out of the worries. You do that with deep breathing, you do it with meditation, you get out of the worries of your mind, you get out of the intuitive overload, and give your nervous system a break, and you can calm yourself down and center yourself and shut down that intuitive overload. So I'm going to click right in here just for a quick second. And you'll see in here, there are some meditations for families and classrooms. So we took great care in researching and finding, these are videos out there, YouTube, and pulling these resources together for all different age ranges. So they're from the young children, 5-minute meditations for kids, sleep meditations. We have the mindfulness boot camp, meditation for 10 minutes as they're getting older. One of the rules of thumb I've always heard is that you meditate for the age of the child, 1 minute for the age of the child. So if the child is 5 years old, eventually they can be worked up to 5 minutes of meditation. If they're a little older, they can work up to their age, but always, even just 1 minute, even for an adult at work, being able to close your eyes, quiet your mind, and meditate or just deep breathe for a minute has huge benefits to your body of giving it a break from the constant overstimulation. So you can see here, there's a 10-minute mindfulness meditation for teens, and then the bubble bounce, this is for kids. And then we even went in and looked at classroom meditations. So if there's any educators out there looking at this, there's a 1-minute timer where you can do this in classrooms. And they have this mindfulness boot camp one. This one here is for middle school 5-minute guided meditations, and in classroom meditations, grounding into presence. And this is really powerful, that if you have a teacher, well, even homeschool, if you've got a homeschooling parent, that sometimes just giving a minute or two for them to sit quiet and just calm themselves, then they can restart and go back into doing what they need to do a little more focused. It brings calm, it brings centeredness, it brings more focus. it brings more inspiration to them, and they'll be ready to work. Because now, John, remember, Ethan had a teacher who started a class at one point with, I think he said like a minute meditation. This is a teacher that just started doing that on her own. And Ethan was saying how that was so helpful for him, of just her taking like that 1-2 minutes of time to meditate, to have the class sit in silence and meditate, that it calmed them. And then they were all refocused to do their work. Wasn't that correct, John?
Yeah, I found it pretty interesting when she said that, or we heard that from Ethan. And I think that it helps to ground the kids from their, it helps to kind of ground their energy, because they come in all scattered all over the place, and to have them just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of helps them chill out a little bit, and kind of helps them get ready for learning. And she said it really helps them to focus and to ground and focus, and really, hone in and just kind of get their energy, centered. So it's a,
Yeah, and that was a class he came home and he talked about. He's like, she started with the meditation. So we were like, that was a very insightful thing for that teacher to do. And it had started getting around to the other classes that this teacher was doing this. I don't know if any of the other teachers started doing it, but it found that was very, very helpful. Ethan found it very helpful and centering for him to be able to start the class with a minute or two meditation. So that's just a little helpful technique to throw out there. And then we had this book here is Tapping, which we introduced last September. And for anybody new to the group, Luann Beecher did a tapping workshop for our community. And that video is in our group, and we can repost it back up. But tapping, and then I've also posted where there's Nick Ortner, who does the Tapping Solution, who's written this book. He has lots of information and lots of videos, and there's actually a parent and child tapping app that I posted in the group not that long ago, and they periodically give away free tapping books for all age ranges, from the young kids, I think it's Gorilla Thumps and Bear Hugs, and then all the way up to like this one that's for families, for parents, children, and teenagers. But they have apps out there that you can do this. This is something great to do for families. I've used tapping for pain relief. I've used it just for like calming, for meditation as well. And it really does work. Luann taught it. It really does work. So that's something to take into consideration, of if you can arm your children with meditation, not just at school, at home, starting it at home, so that even when they're out away from home, they can know how to quiet themselves and zone in. These are in tapping, going into a tapping technique. That helps to calm the body. And that's just taken, a minute or two to go through the acupressure points, because it's actually acupressure. And you're going through some meridian points in a sequence a couple times, and it sends calming signals through the body and helps to relieve that stress and anxiety. Then we have over here, oh, actually, let me click on this for you to see real quick. So for the tapping for families, there's videos out here that we've included for your young kids, how to tap for kids. Parents and teenagers learn how to tap. So they actually go through the meridian points and do it for kids, for parents and teens, the older ones. And then these are videos down here that show you the simple technique to release stress and anxiety for kids. And EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, for kids to reduce stress and anxiety. So take a look at Luann's video, take a look at these videos out here you will learn the technique. It's so simple to learn, holistic technique that has huge benefits. So we've compiled all of this in one place for you. Then we go to our next self-regulation technique. So we have meditation, we have tapping, then we have breathing exercises for kids and families that are also out here. So if we click on that, and I just posted this in the group this week, because deep breathing has huge benefits to the body, calming the parasympathetic nervous system, calms it down, helps to reduce stress, reduce anxiety. It helps anybody to calms the system down. It strengthens and sustains attention, like it says here, sharpens ability to focus and learn, slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and helps control emotions. So all of that. So there's a TED talk about the benefits of deep breathing, and then there's some deep breathing exercises that you can actually go through. If you need a resource, they're out here for your family. You can pull it up, and the exercises for families for different ages here. And then this one, calming skill for middle school and high school, and deep breathing and grounding. So there's a lot of people out there doing good work. This is a group, these folks are based in Atlanta who are doing work for kids, and it's Strong for Life is the group. And they put out some wonderful videos that have been pulled here as resources for families and for schools. And then our next self-regulation technique is intuition building exercises, which getting your children to work in fun ways with their intuitive abilities, just to process that energy, because it can get built up and backed up into the body. And so for this, you have some fun games and exercises, and you don't have to make it like, oh, you're working on your intuition or your intuitive abilities. You make it like we're having fun doing these exercises, which is exactly what we're going to do on February 25th, when we have our first Kids Connect, which is not the Saturday, the following Saturday, Kids Connect. We're going to have family, and it's not just for kids, it's Families Connect. We don't want parents just dropping the kids off in this, we're saying sitting in front of the Zoom. This is for family to learn with the kids. And we're going to have some fun games and exercises to get to know each other, start developing a bond within the families, within the community, but also at the same time, it's going to work our intuitive abilities a little bit. And when you start working with them and having them use them a bit, one, it strengthens them, but it also releases that energy. When you can release that energy that gets built up in the body, then it also helps calm the system down. So this is another tool. And actually, when you click in here, I have out here, this is why I had Litany Burns come in, because her book with intuitive exercises and games is, there's a lot of different ones out there. This was one that I found that had a lot of good games and exercises in it. So if you don't have this one, it might be a resource you consider picking up. And it is also on in the books and resources, the resources under books and affirmation cards section on our intuitive, How Intuitive Kids on this website. And then it talks about the different talents that we have. And there's exercises in all of these areas in the book. And like I said, there are other books too. And if you all know of any other books with some good exercise in it that may not be up on our site, we're always open and looking for more information so we can make it a very robust resource for everyone. So that's the intuitive exercises. Then we're going to come down here to John, what you were talking about. And this one is yoga. There are some yoga is very, very powerful self-management, self-regulating tool. And yoga and mindfulness, they offer a lot of psychological benefits for children. And it shows that it improves focus, memory, self-esteem, academic performance, and classroom behavior. And it can reduce stress and anxiety. So what in children and adults, yoga is good for anybody. So this one, we have yoga for kids. And for even younger kids, you have the two up top. There's one Minecraft, the Cosmic Kids Yoga Adventure. Had to throw that one in for Ethan because he loves Minecraft. But for any of the kids who are in the video games, they have yoga geared towards certain video games. You have yoga for beginners. This one is 30 minutes for teens for yoga, and another one for teens here. And then yoga for the classroom. So if we have any teachers out there who want to take a couple minutes to get the kids up, going back to like Rebecca Fiscal-Kramer, let them move. It's important for kids to get up and to get moving, and maybe be able to stand in a different yoga pose in the classroom and learn something, or move their bodies in a different way. But that is out there so people can see, homeschool or teachers or for family, that there are people who are putting information out there, yoga for the classroom. So these are just things we want to just give you for consideration. And then our last item here under the helpful tools is coping skills. Overall, if we can arm our children with the tools and the techniques that help them like have been talking about, self-manage, self-regulate, and to cope, learning coping skills. All of this here that we're showing you, if families do this, regardless if the schools or anyone else, if families, you just do these practices as a family, just try it for a week or 2 or 3, or just make it a practice. Even if you can get these things in for 1, 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, just scatter them throughout the week. It will make a big difference. Children will grow up at any age knowing that they have these to use to help themselves. But the coping skills here, there are videos. This one's coping skills for elementary school. This is by the same group who do the Strong for Life and educational videos for schools. They're based in Atlanta. Excellent information. We have one for elementary school where they give a list of techniques that children can use to help with coping. And one of the things, like you mentioned, John, exercise. That's a big thing. Movement, exercise and movement, journaling, talking. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different exercises in here. And then so we put the one for elementary school, and we have the one here for middle and high school. So we just wanted to show you that there are a lot of resources out there. What we've done is we've pulled them together for you so you don't have to dig for them yourselves. You may have some other resources that you may be tapping into and using, but this gives a whole self-management toolkit for families, for educators, for parents, caregivers, for people to consider. So when you have an opportunity, go out, take a look at our website. This is just one little piece of information. I will go up here really quick, and I'm going to show under resources, you see where it says books and affirmation cards. And I'm just going to show here. This is where we do have all the books and resources available for people to find information. And this is going to continue to grow because there are, and I've been coming across more books that will be added out here, but lots of good information for families to have access to. You know, coloring, art. Like I said, art is an incredible way for working with intuitive abilities. And we'll be getting, as we're moving forward and doing our Kids Connect, there will be some art exercises coming into that. There's going to be a lot of creativity and fun ways for kids to interact and start just expressing their creativity, and creativity enhances their intuitive abilities and ties in. Creative mind is the intuitive mind. And we have information for tweens and teens, for the little children. The books, there's a mixture of parents and kids of different ages here with the coloring books. And then we get down here to affirmation cards, because tying back to what we talked about, what you think about, you bring about. And so affirmations have the power of retraining the brain to think more positively, because the more we can think positively, the more we elevate our energy. We keep our thoughts at a higher elevated level of thinking positively, then we keep the negativity away. The negativity is what draws, and the stress, negativity and the stress causes the anxiety and the depression. And the more we can get our child and ourselves who have this ability to stay in a positive state and a positive frame of mind, the more you're going to help to be able to think more clearly and help kick in with those self-management tools and be able to work through the stressors that you may be feeling. But if the key too is, if we do it as parents, as adults, because all of us, everybody deals with stress to some level, but the more that we do this as adults and our children see us doing it and we do it as a family, we're modeling for them how to manage themselves now and going forward into the future. So I just wanted to run through that because I think that was very, I wanted to make sure that people knew the resources they have at their fingertips and some of the self-management tools that are pulled together for you out there. John, would you like to add anything else?
No, I just think this is, it's, I would, definitely like to motivate and recommend people to take a look at the resources out there. There's a lot of resources for for kids and for adults and to help with the kids. You know, we as parents, we don't know everything. And so, and Ellen and I've just, it's a learning process, right? So, and then when you learn something, you want to, that works, you want to, you know, put it out there for other people as a potential resource for them to help with their different situations.
Right. Because we don't want others to have to go through that unknowing and feeling, you know, scared or overwhelmed or nervous, or what do we do? Where do we turn? How do we help? Books, I've heard this from a gentleman who's helps publish books, Chandler Balt, this gentleman I heard it from, and his thing is books change lives. And I love that because it's the truth. I know for us, I'm a bookworm. You can see behind me, I got books, tons of books behind me. I've loved books all my life. And I think that's part of why I bring so many books, is because somebody has gone through it and somebody's written about it or made a video about it or has talked about it somewhere or something. And that's why I think even now with all the information, podcasts, different things that are coming up, people are out there trying to help and share information that works. And so we're just trying to compile it. We bundling it up for you and giving this to our highly intuitive community, and not just our group, but the whole world highly intuitive community. And we want to make sure that we continue to filter more resources in there and have people have the access that they need. And then if you don't have the access that you need, or you can't find it in the books, always reach out to this group. We can always make a connection for you. I work with people. There's other people in this group that work with people. There's others, a lot of people are working with families and children right now. So you can be connected with somebody that's a good fit for you, and you want to find somebody that's a good fit for you and your family. And you have the resources. There's so much more awareness about this, and there's such a drive and a need by a lot of people to help children right now. So it's an intuitive generation coming in. They're going to continue to come in much more intuitive, and we need to catch up. So as the parents become more aware and educate ourselves about this, the more we can in turn start advocating and educating our educators and other professionals who are working with our children, start the dialogue, get the minds to start opening, and we can start changing what's going on and how our children are experiencing the world when there's a more open dialogues, normalizing of conversation, and a more, awareness about this. And that's our goal, is to raise awareness. So once you can raise awareness, then you can start getting the seeds of change in progress for the future. So we wanted to bring that to you today, and just let you know what you have, what's out there, and some of the tools. Stress happens to everybody. It happens more to those of us who are sensitive. We take it in deeper. But if we can give our children and ourselves, starts with ourselves, if we can model for our children how to do self-management and work with them and teach them, they will have, you're giving them keys to a lifetime of feeling more centered and grounded in themselves. You're giving them the keys to their successful management and being successful in the future by being able to be fully who they are and grounded in themselves. So, John, any last words?
You concluded quite well. I don't want to touch upon that.
Well, thank you all. So this was our meetup for February, and we're going to look forward to having people come together again for March, and we'll have another great topic to talk about. And we just sign out for now and say thank you very much. We appreciate having all of you as part of our community, who's part of our community. Anybody who's going to be listening to this on the replay, who's out there, we hope you find all of this information helpful. And we will talk again at the next parent meetup in March.
I will be there.